Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. Join us for the 2025 G3 National Conference here in Atlanta, Georgia on September 11th through the 13th. We hope to see you there.
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. Happy Lord's Day, you guys. Ooh, Lord, we made it. Listen, I understand that YouTube is very congested right now. In light of this political climate, there's like a lot going on. Everybody's live streaming, but I can't blame the technical difficulties I just experienced on YouTube. You guys, it wasn't even YouTube's fault. The streaming software that I have is very picky. And one setting can make or break your entire live stream. And for some strange reason, a button that ends the broadcast after my intro was activated. And so I kept hitting the go live button and I'm like, why does it keep ending the stream? So basically this was like user incompetence, right? It wasn't even YouTube's fault. So I am back and you guys should be able to hear me. You should be able to see me. Everything should be running as planned. Thank you so much for joining me for this impromptu live stream. I did not plan to go live. Normally Sunday is just my day to just chill with the family, chill with my church family, and kind of just mull over what life is about and getting ready for the next week. But in light of today's announcement, I said, babe, I was like, I got to turn the camera on. And so he was like, go on and turn the camera on. And so here I am. As you can see from the thumbnail, I want to talk to you about the bombshell news that dropped today, which is the fact we just didn't know that Joe Biden was going to drop out of the 2024 presidential race. I don't know. We're just so shocked. We had no idea, who saw this coming? Well, I'll tell you who saw this coming. A lot of us saw this coming. Now, in light of the fact that, I tend to put a comedic spin on all kinds of news, I actually want to be kind of serious for a moment, just for a moment. Y'all know I got good sense, so it ain't gonna last long. So just stick with me for the amount of time that I actually do want to be serious. We've known for quite a while, right, that Joe Biden was mentally impaired, that there were deficiencies that he has been suffering for quite some time. However, the media has been lying to us. The press secretary has been lying to us. He has been lying to us. Pretty much everybody has been lying and telling you that what you've been seeing for the past couple of years is not what you see. Your eyes are deceiving you. everything is fine. Joe is fine. The country's fine. We're doing better than ever. Everything in the world is going good. We're winning. But as we can see, that hasn't been true. And the humanity part of me, right? The part of me, because I'm a believer and I have a biblical worldview, despite the fact that I have agreed with nothing that this administration has done policy-wise, there was this soft spot in my heart because I was like, y'all, that could be my dad. That could be my grandpa. Like, that could be someone in my family. And I'm like, why is no one advocating for President Biden? Why is no one stepping in saying, listen, I understand we have a country to run, but this is my loved one here. He's not doing well. You see the falls. You see the gaffes. Joe always struggled with, communicating his thoughts in a winsome fashion. But what we witnessed the past couple of years wasn't just Joe Biden being Joe Biden. These were like misfires and things going on neurologically that prevented him from putting his best foot forward and leading from a place of strength and resilience and sober-mindedness. I'll put it that way. And so, the part of me as a Christian, despite the politics, I have been very, very annoyed by how his wife has been handling this. I've been very annoyed about the way Karine Jean-Pierre, our press secretary, has been handling this, because it did not matter what we saw. The narrative was Joe is fine. He is running in this 2024 re-election presidential campaign, and there's nothing that's going to stop him. So stop asking us about it. And that frustrated me because I realized in that moment that love of country, love of what's doing best for this nation was not at the forefront of that narrative. What was at the forefront of that narrative was we have to stay in power. We have to stay in power, and we need to control all aspects of this. And we can't let the truth get out to the American people that things are actually not okay, and that things are out of control, and that everything is not, peachy keen and sunshine and rainbows. And so what I want to talk about tonight is the fact that, okay, Joe is out. Joe is out officially. I believe I have the Twitter post, and we're going to talk about why this announcement was made on Twitter and why our commander-in-chief did not address the American people directly. We're going to talk about that. But here we have my fellow Democrats. I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all of my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it has been the best decision I've ever made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. So let's go ahead and unpack this. And I might, because I'm old and my eyes are not as good as they used to be, need to make this a little bigger. And so I thought this announcement was interesting because, for one, it wasn't addressed to the American people or the nation as a whole. He specifically addressed his party. Now, I'm not going to be real nitpicky, but I did feel some sort of kind of way because I'm like, Joe, I don't really like your policies, but you are, as it stands, my commander-in-chief, right? You're my commander-in-chief, and you don't just represent Democrats, you represent all Americans. Despite how we feel, he represents all Americans, but he addressed Democrats. Right. And I get it, because right now the Democrat Party is touch and go. There's infighting. Nobody's on the same page. It's just wild pandemonium. So he addresses Democrats and he says, I have decided not to accept the nomination. And then he's going to focus all his energy on his duties as president. Now, my concern is that he's not forthright in telling us why he's decided not to accept the nomination. Now, we know why, right? We know why. And to be fair, I don't even think Joe wrote this. I could be wrong, but I don't believe he wrote this. The fact that he is saying, I'm not going to accept the nomination, I'm just going to focus all my energy on being president. We're like, well, Joe, why aren't you going to accept the nomination? Right? Like, your party didn't have a primary. The Democrats of this country were not given the option. If there are any Democrats watching, newsflash, you were told that Joe was your nominee, right? Now, I, on paper, am a registered Republican, but I don't always side with everything that the Republican Party does. But what I respect about the Republican Party is that we at least had a primary. The MAGA movement has taken the Republican Party by storm, but there's no assumption that there are not other viable candidates that want to put their hat in the ring and that there are going to be other Americans who would be interested in seeing, well, what are my options? You know, I may not want to vote for Trump. So we had Ron DeSantis. We had Chris Christie. Oh, Chubba Bubba. We had, what's her name? The Indian lady. Why is her name escaping me? Nikki Haley, right? We had Nikki Haley. We had Tim Scott, right? Throw a little diversity in there. We also had Vivek Ramaswamy, right? We had a rising star in the Republican Party that just invigorated the millennials and the Gen Zs to give conservatism a second look. The point is, I think did we have Doug Burgum? I mean, we had a couple of other just people that I can't even remember their names. But the point is, we were given a choice for us to decide out of these individuals, let's have a primary and let the people decide. I thought it was interesting that the Democrat Party, the party of democracy, even though this is a constitutional republic, but that's neither here nor there, they claim that everything Trump is doing is destroying the democracy, but I don't even know what they mean when they say that. I think they just say it as a buzzword, but they're not thinking through the implications of that word and what it means. But they're the ones that are taking away choices from their own party and saying, you gonna vote who we tell you to vote for. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna vote for Joe Biden. And not only are you gonna vote for Joe Biden, we're gonna make sure that no other options get allowed to be put on the ballot in so many states. And we're gonna put roadblocks in the way so that JFK doesn't have a viable chance. Right? Like, some of y'all are like, JFK was running? Well, not JFK. What's his name? Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy, who, you know, he's a weird bunch, like a weird aspect. But he ended up having to run as an independent because the Democrats were like, nope, we're not giving you a chance either. So I thought it was interesting that Joe addressed fellow Democrats, not the nation, but he addressed his party. I could be nitpicky, but we're going to let that slide. But he doesn't tell us why he has decided to not accept the nomination, and then tells us he's going to focus all of his energies on his duties as president. But we're like, Joe, if you can't run, and if you're unwilling to accept the nomination, why should we trust that for the next couple of months until January that you even have the wherewithal to still be president? That's a question that I have. It's just an American citizen, regardless of party affiliation. I already know that one, Joe probably didn't write this, and two, that Joe is not really capable of leading, and that's why he's dropping out. But no one is really having the conversation of, well, if you ain't running, how are you running the country? Like, how is that working? There's no confidence from my perspective, I have no reason to put any confidence in what is being done in terms of the leadership and who's running our country, because I don't believe Joe has been running our country. I just don't. Okay? He then goes on to say, my very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've ever made. Lies. He knows he's lying. You know he's lying. The American people knows that he's lying, right? That was not his best decision. You know why? Because if that was his best decision, the Democrat Party would not be scrambling right now trying to figure out, well, what is we gonna do? Joe's not well. Mentally, he is incapacitated, can't make decisions for himself, let alone the country. And we have no confidence that Kamala Harris can do the job because, one, she was one of the least popular candidates during the 2020 presidential run, so much so that her primary didn't even get up off the ground despite having money. And now he's gaslighting his Democrat constituents by saying, you know, I picked her. One of the very first things I did was I picked her, and that was the best decision ever. Was it? Was it really? Because I recall Kamala was authorized and appointed to be the border czar. She was the one in charge of spearheading, right, what is going on at the border and to fix it. What do we have right now? Good people of God who are listening on this live stream under the sound of my voice, we have a very unsecure border. And she lied to us over and over again. Everything at the border is fine. And we're like, Kamala, when did you go? Well, you know, I was eating roti and had to go get my emotions relaxer. I didn't have time to get to the border, but I'm going to go. Do you know how long it took Kamala to take her old raggedy behind down to the border? It took a very long time. And in the midst of her inaction and inability to lead from a place of assertive action regarding the border, we have a wide open border. She, I don't know if y'all remember, is the one who told them all to come. Come on in. And what did the illegals do? They took her up on the offer, and they did just that. They came right on in. And then the state of Texas was like, whoa, all right, now we have this surge at the border. Millions of illegals are crossing into the country. We are full. We can't process these people. Why is border control allowing them to come in? Governor Abbott was like, I got something for you. Okay, y'all want to play games? You don't want to secure this border? Fine. Where are all the sanctuary cities? All of the virtue signal blue cities that say, you know, we just want, this is a melting pot and we just want everybody because, you know, America was built on the back of immigrants. Okay, fine. So what does Governor Abbott do? Smart man, brilliant idea. He gave them what they asked for. He made them put up or shut up. Fine, you a sanctuary city. Well, come and get these illegals because we don't have no place to put them. And they started shipping illegals to New York, started shipping illegals to Chicago. A few buses came in and through Atlanta. They were going to Arizona and all over the country. Illegal immigrants were flooded into our cities, bankrupting, crippling local economies, displacing American workers, using American resources, right? Getting EBT cards and put up in the finest hotels. While what happened? American veterans were pushed aside. American children were pushed aside. Schools that we don't have money for because, you know, we just have to close these schools. All of a sudden, we're able to be opened and used and repurposed for the use of the illegal immigrant. Well, would you look at that? So him lauding his decision to appoint Kamala Harris as one of the best decisions, I'm like, Joe, you really are not in your right mind. or the people that wrote this have to lie some more, like they've been lying to us, to convince the American people that that was a good decision. The least popular candidate in the 2020 primary, he taps on the shoulder, the one who accused him of being guilty of sexual assault, the one who accused him of his, or reminded him, I should say, it wasn't an accusation, it was true. She reminded him of his segregationalist ideas and not wanting to bus, the little pavement apes to the school with the white children. Yes. Those were his words that she managed to throw up in his face. And this is the woman he chose to pick as his VP. Not because she was qualified, not because she came with this wealth of experience and leadership ability, but simply because she was Black and she's a woman. Well, that DEI virtue signal has now come home to roost, because now the Democrats are in the pickle. What the heck are they going to do? Joe can't run, and Kamala is incapable of, I believe, she's incapable of winning because she wasn't popular, she's disingenuous, she's inauthentic, and even Black folks, the pro-blackity blacks, have to convince themselves that, I ain't never really liked her, but, because my ethnicity trumps everything and I lead with my ethnicity, I'm going to vote for her just because she's Black and she's a woman. But they know deep down inside that it's not that she's the most qualified. They know this. But isn't it amazing how Democrats train their own party to ignore merit, to ignore qualifications? You must ignore all of that, and you must elevate all of the intersectionality boxes, because for some reason they've trained their party to think that that's where their strength lies. Their strength lies in who they sleep with. Their strength lies in their gender. Their strength lies in all of these existential attributes that give you no indication to a person's capabilities or abilities, but they elevate them. They elevate them, and you're supposed to celebrate it, even though with the mind that the good Lord gave you that this doesn't even make sense. And here's another thing, before I lose my train of thought. The Democrats have trained their constituents to don't question observable reality. You're not allowed to do that, because if you question observable reality, they will hurl the same accusations that they hurl to the right, which is you're a sexist and you're a racist. They do that. They use Lucifer's language to shut down the conversation and to quell any sort of opposition. Because, see, they don't want to engage with the argument on the basis of its merits. So they have to do the smoke screen. They got to do this. Be like, it's sexist. It's racist. And what that is supposed to do is supposed to weaken you so that you drop to your knees and bow the knee to whatever idol they're trying to erect in your face. And you have to, I am so sorry. Why? Because who wants to be called sexist or racist? Who wants to be called that? So now the Democrats have placed themselves in this position to now the president, he's still out here lying, talking about that was the best decision he ever made, when everyone knows it probably was the worst decision he ever made, right? He's got to convince us, though. He's got to keep lying. And then he goes, Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. The weakest ticket, the weakest president, and now the weakest ticket, and we don't even know who the VP is going to be. They just want y'all to come together and rally behind this raggedy mess right here. Because Trump winning is like the worst thing in the world. Forget the fact that we've had the worst economy in God knows how long. We lack energy independence. We are buying oil from our enemies. Insane to me. Our children are being sexualized, and I'm going to share a story about that, about how a recent a recent, I don't know if let me see what it is. It's a recent rule that Biden passed, right? That actually inhibits, or should I say impedes, Christians from being able to really foster care properly because they don't want you sharing your faith with these children. And so we're going to get to that. That's a bonus. But the point that I'm making is they just want you guys to rally behind the weakest ticket ever on the basis of these existential things that give you no indication to whether can she lead, should she lead, and if so, what policies is she going to lead with? This is not a personality thing. Yes, Kamala's goofy. Okay, so what? Right? But we would agree she's goofy. But there are plenty of capable goofy people. Look at Bill Gates. He's just as goofy as they come, but the man is brilliant. He brought value and created something that you're probably watching me on right now, some software, right? Goofy, but capable to do the task at hand. So this is not a personality thing where I'm like, okay, Kamala's too goofy to be president. No, it's not. It's not whether I like her. We're looking at capacity, capability. I don't believe that she has postured herself or proven and demonstrated an ability to lead these last 3 years. The one job she had, which was to handle the border, dereliction of duty. The country is now less safe domestically because of her inability to just lead on the border once it was handed to her when it was in its most safe. It was as safe as it had ever been in years. But no, Joe Biden, every executive order, his first day in office, oh, we're not building no more wall. They wanted these people to come in. They wanted those people to come in and take the black jobs. Yes. I'm not ashamed to say it. They wanted that. They wanted to weaken America from the inside out because they don't care about Americans. They don't care that our economy is crippled and inflation is super high right now, and that single moms and elderly people are struggling to pay their bills because the cost of goods and services is unsustainable. They don't care about those things. Instead, they just keep lying to you and saying, this is the best economy ever. They have lied about our inflation numbers. They have lied about our unemployment numbers. They just keep lying. And I don't understand why the American people will not put their feet to the carpet and say, at this point, cut it out. Stop lying. Stop lying. Because no one believes you. No one believes you. So I thought it was interesting. Now that Biden has decided not to run, the question is, does this mean Kamala is in? Like, are they legally able to do this? I think this is going to be interesting to watch and play out because we all kind of knew that this was coming. We know that there's this huge war chest of funds that have been raised. And the question is, will Kamala have access to that war chest? And if so, who's her running mate? Now, I have predicted, I can't prove this, I have no inside knowledge of this, but if the Democrats are going to do and stay in line with what they've been doing, which is making really dumb decisions, not with the interests of the American people at the forefront, but with these superficial intersectionality reasons, I foresee them picking a homosexual white man to join the ticket. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be Pete Buttigieg. I don't know. Might be. I doubt it would be another female because that's too much. They already know the American people cannot handle that. But they will probably give a head nod to their sexual perversion and sexual proclivities and they will probably tag a white homosexual male. And that will be the quintessential DEI ticket. Half Indian, part black, Jamaican female, right? And white homosexual man as her VP. It could be far-fetched, right? But I wouldn't put it past them. Let me go ahead and get to some of these super chats. You guys have been amazing. This is, like I said, this is an impromptu live, y'all. I got like chicken scratch, handwritten notes. See my notes? Oh, y'all can't see them. Well, I don't even have it typed out because I wasn't planning to go live. So I'm trying to read my own notes and I'm struggling. But hi, Sister Deborah Atkins, Denmark. Thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate your support. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is an impromptu Standard of Truth podcast live chat, or live stream, I should say. I wasn't planning to go live, but in light of the new information that has come down the pipeline, I was like, I got to turn this camera on and just get some things off my chest. So thank you so much for stopping by this evening and for leaving that super chat to show your support for the work that I'm doing here. Thank you very much. And then we have, hey, RC. What a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive. Thank you so much for that generous super chat. You are absolutely right. If you think about all of the strategic moves that the Democrat Party has been making up until this point, it lacks sense and wisdom. It's almost like they're making these decisions and they're not thinking ahead about, forget the implications of their decisions, right? They're not thinking about how is this decision going to impact the American people. They are not leading from a policy position. They're not. They're literally trying to force down your throat this alternate reality and this alternate worldview. And I believe the consequences of that is what we are living. The bad economy, the poor decisions from a foreign policy perspective. It's almost like they are literally tearing down the country from within with their own hands. But they don't seem to care about that because they're like, but we're in power and we're here. And they're pushing these harmful agendas and they're not looking at the future posterity of the country and the implications that these policies have on the American people. But these are the ones, they are literally running their party like a dictatorship, all the while trying to make you think that the opponent, Donald Trump, is the dictator. When the vast majority of Trump's policies, he gets them by listening to his base. What is it that you guys want to see? Let's do that. Do you know where he got the idea from to implement, if he wins the election, no cash on tips? He's out eating at a restaurant and his server, he asked the server how she's doing, how's life going for you? And they get into a conversation about how, because I think it got to the point, where you tip the server. She brought up the fact that despite the fact that she works on tips, the idea that money, most people put the tip on their card. So that means they're running that through their merchant credit card processor. She's like, I barely see that money because of the tax. And so he comes up with this brilliant idea and was like, well, how would you like no tax on tips? She was like, you know what? That sounds like a winning idea. And this is how it would help me. Bam. That is now one of the policy agendas and things that he plans to implement. Why? Because he just listens to people. He just listens to people. He's not like, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. The decisions and the policies that are made for the best interest of the people. Securing the border when we were told that was xenophobic, that he hates immigrants. No. For the people in the back, most Americans are against illegal immigration. Some of my best friends are naturalized citizens. They are immigrants not from this country. They are from China. They're from Colombia, right? They're from all these other places, India. And they come here because, well, most of them, they're like, listen, America is the land of good and plenty. So we are coming here to get the bag, right? They're coming to get the bag. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. You come here to get the bag because they know in their country that the opportunity, just to have the opportunity to come and get the bag is not offered to them. So they come here with a different vibe, a different spirit of gratitude, and they're grateful. And in one generation, they are able to lift themselves up out of poverty. So I fully support immigration. What I don't support are illegal immigrants. I don't support you showing up to the border and demanding to be let in and then say, you gonna feed me, you gonna clothe me, you're gonna house me, and you gonna give me a job. Say what now? First of all, I don't even know you. That should be our response. When people show up to your front door and they come with that kind of energy, normally they get shot. But for some reason, we have rationalized in our mind because we have allowed emotional heartstrings to be pulled and tiny violins to be played when it's just not right. They just want to come here for a better life. You know how many people want to come here for a better life and waited in line and paid their money and had to take the test and fill out all that paperwork? Those are the ones that deserve to be here. They too don't like illegal immigration because it's a slap in the face to all of the hard work and sacrifice that they had to make so that they could be here to take advantage of the American dream. So from the legal immigrants' perspective, they're like, how dare you? Who do you think you are? You just gonna waltz up in here and demand we feed and clothe you? And then some of these migrants, well, I'm calling them illegals, they uppity. They're like, we want food from our country. I'm sorry. Are you paying for this food? It's almost like your kids who don't work, they pay zero bills, and they demand and tell you, you know, well, I don't like Lunchables. Now, we don't even eat Lunchables. But can you imagine a 5-year-old saying, I don't want these Lunchables? I'm sorry, what? Oh, so you must gonna be going to bed hungry. Because you in this house, you eat what's put before you. That's how it works. In the same way, you don't get to cross this country's border illegally, making demands with the expectation that the American people are going to foot the bill. No, that's not how it works. All Americans should have an American first agenda, not American only, American first agenda. So, thank you, RC, for that super chat. Hey, Sunkiss. Great to see you this evening. Thank you so much. Blessings to you as well. I appreciate you stopping by like you always do to support me. Thank you very much. We have Luke. Is it Pegus? I don't know, Luke, but we just gonna call you Luke. Hey, we in danger if they install that Jezebel. Listen, that is okay, here's how I'm inclined to agree with you because yes, I do believe the country would be in danger if she is elected. However, I am comforted by the idea that God is sovereign and in his providence, if he allows that to happen, his will and his ways are way above mine. And so, yes, I would be disappointed. Yes. I mean, I don't support riotous behavior, but I could see myself in my flesh wanting to go riot if that happened. But I wouldn't do that. Like, that's what the left does. They just want, when they don't get their way, they want to fight and tear up stuff. Like, we're way more reserved. We just take the L and keep on moving. But I would agree, we would be in danger because what people don't know, and I am inclined to make this statement without apology, what most Black American women, they're all have been indoctrinated and raised to be neo-Marxist, but they don't know it. And so Kamala Harris is considered based on her political positions, her political ideology, and the policies she supports, we would have to put her in the neo-Marxist category, right? These are godless people who, capitalism is lost on them. She represents that, and so she has I don't really want to call it a base. She just has people that support her by default in their ignorance because they're blinded by the idolatry of melanin. To them, she represents, if she gets in there, to them, that means we're in there. I never understood how that worked. Like, for example, when Barack Obama won, Black people felt like they were in the White House, but I'm like, but you're not. Right? Like, for them, it was the idea that we got to check the box, right? To them, that meant something. The vanity metric for this demographic means something. So the idea that a Howard University graduate who happens to be an AKA, who technically is biracial, but forget that, the details don't matter, her being picked as VP regardless of her qualifications and ability to do the job, that was enough for them. It was all about the vanity metric. And they would have raised holy Hades if she were overlooked, despite the fact we know she can't do the job and she's widely unpopular. They would have just been upset and in their emotional feels, because what you don't understand, it's not about what's good for the country. Right? It is in a logical, emotional attachment and an ethnic, narcissistic view of the world. And it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't even matter if the policies that are being put forth are harmful to their children. They don't think about the harm that the policies are doing to their children. They don't think about the harm that the policies and how it's affecting them economically. We're all down bad right now, but women are still celebrating the fact that Kamala Harris might possibly be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, because to them, that means something. And to me, that is the most shallow and silly position I've ever heard. But that's just where we are as a country. It's emotional. It doesn't have to make sense, right? And to be fair, I believe part of the reason why that is, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to piss a lot of people off, but what's new? When you have several generations of bastards raising bastards, meaning children being born out of wedlock with no strong male headship in the home, that mechanism and that muscle to think in logical and proper categories is weakened, because you've never had that voice of reason speaking to your life and be like, that don't make sense. We're not doing that. You've lived your life for the past 3 generations doing what you want to do, making your own decisions. It didn't matter if they were bad decisions, illogical decisions, and harmful decisions. They were your decisions. When you don't have generations of women that before they make a decision, they're going to seek wise counsel from the men in their life, or better yet, the men in their life are not even going to allow certain decisions to be made because they can see how harmful they are. This is what you get. You get women making illogical decisions based on emotion because the muscle and they've never been trained that muscle mechanism to say, you know what? I'm going to restrain my emotions in this moment because the man in my life is saying something different, and I trust his judgment and I trust his leadership. So therefore, let me see what he going to say. And if he says, no, I don't think this is good, I think this is going to be harmful for the country and it's going to be harmful for our family, a woman who's trained and experienced in that, she's going to be like, okay, well, in that case, then that's what we're going to do. But if you got 3 generations of bastards raising bastards and a bunch of single mamas, just melanated matriarchy at the helm, that's how you get the threat of us being in danger if she were to get into office. Because you have men like a Roland Martin who wears shirts that say, vote like a Black woman. Well, that's just crazy. That is the most unwise, insane advice I've ever heard. Because all you have to do is look at our outcomes. Our outcomes demonstrate that vote like a black woman is not good. If you look historically, we vote 95% clip for one party to our own detriment. It is insane. Insane. But thank you for that comment, friend. DJ Magnetic, he said, your show this evening so far, very great. Thank you, DJ Magnetic. I really, really do appreciate that. I do recognize that my opinions are less popular than the prevailing narrative. I get that. However, I believe that if your ideas are good, they should be allowed to be debated in the open square, and you should be able to challenge the prevailing narrative. And so I'm kind of dedicated to doing that over here. I don't think it's wise to police people's speech and to say, well, you can't say that. I think we should just be able to discuss these things in the open forum, because it's good and healthy to have your deeply held presuppositions challenged and to just say, well, let me push back on that. Our outcomes of this, you really think us going this way has made sense for us? Are we winning? So that's why I do what I do. So thank you for that. So let me share with you guys, now that Biden is technically out and Kamala is probably he's endorsed her, but that doesn't mean she's going to be the nominee. They still have a convention. They have to convene in Chicago, and that is going to be interesting. I am interested in seeing how that's going to play out. Is it going to be mayhem? Because the thing is, they have to convince the delegates who've already pledged their support for Joe Biden. They have to convince these delegates to pledge their support for Kamala Harris. And if the Democrat Party operates like they've been operating, there's going to be so much pressure. They're not going to care what those delegates want to do. It's like, this is what you're going to do, says the Party of Democracy. But anyway, this article, I came across this article because a great brother in the Lord, Pastor John Amanchukwu, he penned this op-ed for Christianity Today, and it's titled, Biden's New Foster Care Rule is Meant to Block Christians Like Me. And I wanted to cover it because so many Christians that share my ethnic image, meaning they're Black, right? Black Americans, have been riding with Biden and putting pressure on other Black Americans to stand in solidarity with Biden as well, despite the policies not only just not being good for America, but being wholly against your biblical worldview and your Christian values. The platform is just horrible. And so I want to share this article with you guys, because what I want to do is I actually want to challenge. I want to challenge individuals who claim the name of Christ and who still identify as Democrat. I need to know, what are you going to do with this? I genuinely want to know, because I've gotten your emails and I've listened to your logical argumentation, and I'm like, you haven't even really thought through your own position, because you've contradicted yourself in this email. You do, and that's the thing. Some of them I can't even respond to, because I'm like, we're not even speaking the same language. And so I kind of let the emails just marinate, because I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. But this article says Biden's U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is so hell-bent to see as many children and youth as possible be transitioned into the opposite gender that it has finalized an outlandish new foster care rule that practically bans Christians from adopting or being caretakers. Listen to this, you guys. This treacherous federal new rule, announced this past April, states in essence that no person will be eligible to host or adopt a child in foster care unless that individual is on board with supporting transgenderism. Let's let that marinate for a little bit. So I had to pause for dramatic effect. I'm going to read it again. This treacherous federal new rule, announced this past April, states, in essence, that no person will be eligible to host or adopt a foster child or a child in foster care unless that individual is on board with supporting transgenderism. In other words, they must denounce the word of God, which, as Matthew 19:4 declares, he made them at the beginning, male and female. If this new HHS rule sounds satanic, that is because it is. But if it comes as a surprise, it should not. This is the part for me. For all the Democrat, quote unquote Democrat Christians that have emailed me outraged that I would support conservative values, which I don't even understand how you name the name of Christ and are confused that I'm a conservative. Like, keep saying it out loud. Just repeat it like it's a mantra to yourself, and it's going to hit you eventually. I'll just be like, what? So you want me to be a liberal? Is that it? You want me to side with this wickedness? Anyway, if it comes as a surprise, it should not. Just look at the number of aggressive steps that Rachel Levine has taken as the lead trans HHS official to help spur an increase in the number of children getting transgender surgeries. I would love for my Christians that identify as Democrats to help me understand how you've been okay with the director of Health and Human Services, who is an actual bona fide man, but he's walking around pretending like he's a woman. This is the one that is making these policies to sexualize your children and to convince them that this is perfectly normal. And you got issues with my political platform policy positions? Yeah. Don't say nothing to me. Anyway, it says, for instance, Rachel Levine is so laser focused on increasing the number of children who go under the knife and get their bodies mutilated that, according to the New York Times, Levine has been using federal pressure behind the scenes to change medical guidelines so that there's no age limit for sex change surgeries. This is what's been going on. While you ride with Biden, this is what's happening. But you got issues with me. Moreover, in accordance with seeking to remove age limits, Levine has also been at the forefront in developing strategies to combat a number of red states that would, well, for now, Georgia's still red, that have passed laws that ban child mutilation. I'm sorry. It is unthinkable, untenable for me to wrap my mind around states that allow this to happen. But in California, it's allowed. If your 5-year-old says, mommy, I think I'm a girl, they wholly support your child's right to declare that he feels that he is a girl. And they ain't even got to tell you. The school will support his decision. You're just out in the sidelines, sharing custody of your child with the government. But you want me to ride with Biden. You got me messed up. Levine's primary collaborator in all this is HHS Secretary Javier Becerra, who works in tandem with Levine. Back in July of 2022, Becerra and Levine co-hosted together a so-called roundtable with trans youth, where some of the small children photographed were paraded wearing clothes of the opposite sex and visibly under the age of 10 based on height alone. Becerra revealed that he shares Levine's deep level of commitment to force Americans to adhere to the Biden transgender agenda during his testimony on Capitol Hill in May. So this law was proposed in April, or finalized in April, and during his testimony in May, he confirmed during questioning that he would likely withhold federal funds from any hospital or healthcare facility in America that does not perform transgender surgeries in spite of religious objections. So what is the Seventh-day Adventists going to do out there in Loma Linda with their hospital out there? What are the Seventh-day Adventists going to do? What are the Catholic hospitals going to do? I don't think there are any Baptist or Presbyterian hospitals left in name only, but not in theory. What are those hospitals going to do? If they're like, well, we don't want to perform those surgeries. Oh, okay. So we're going to do what Democrats always do, which is subjugate, bully. They're going to make you do whatever tactic it takes, withholding federal funds from you. Oh, no, you're going to do this. You're going to bow the knee to whatever we say because this is what we do. They've always been the party of the sexual perversion, the subjugation on the basis of ethnicity. They've always been that. I know some of you out here who ain't picked up a book are like, no, the party's changed. No, they did not. Stop propagating that lie. And if you believe that lie to be true, you need to give the names and the year. I need to prove it. Prove it. It didn't happen, but you keep saying it because you heard another ignorant parrot it and say it out loud. That's why you say it. But listen to this. Florida is one state that bans transgender treatment on minors, and its attorney general is suing HHS, that's such a tongue twister, HHS, to undo this rule and successfully got an injunction in federal court that blocks HHS from implementing. Of course, HHS is not working alone. The DOJ is another key player. As has been widely reported, when a Christian Texas surgeon, Dr. Ethan Haim, blew the whistle and leaked evidence that Texas Children's Hospital was violating Texas law that bans sex change procedures on those under the age of 18, the FBI showed up at his home and informed him that he was being indicted by the DOJ. Look at this lawfare. Lawfare is what they do. Oh, you don't want to do what we want you to do? Well, now we got to cut you. Now we have to sick the judicial system on you to demand that you do what we do. They get their FBI involved and the Department of Justice involved, and now we're going to indict you. Makes what's happened to Trump look a little bit more, doesn't it look a little bit more? You're like, you know what? This do seem a little, I don't know. It's the lawfare for me. So now based on Christian conviction, I don't want to do this surgery. So now you're going to indict me and attempt to bankrupt me because now I got to defend myself. So now you're going to tie me up in court. You guys, these are Marxist tactics. This is straight out of the Marxist communist playbook. But you want me. This is why I say that the Black people that are still left super loyal to the Democrat Party, they are melanated Marxists and communists, and they don't even know it. They have no idea that they have been pigeonholed, indoctrinated, and raised to be communists and to be on board with the communist agenda, because what the communists and the Marxists have done is use ethnicity as a way to blind them to all this other stuff that's going on. So while they think they're in the fight for social justice, what they're really doing is in support of communism. That's what's happening. So all your pulpit pimp preachers that's on code with the Democrat Party, those are your melanated Marxists. That's that one arm of that iron triangle that I've talked about from Vince Everett Ellison's book. So Kamala is just a pawn in this whole tool. She's just a tool and a pawn in this whole scheme. But this is what you're supporting when you got your pearls and your chucks on and you out here sounding crazy about I'm riding with Biden. This judicial action against Dr. Haim certainly appears to confirm Levine and Bakara's remarks in an interview they both gave recently to the Washington Blade, where they admitted that HHS was collaborating with the Department of Justice to use litigation, aka lawfare, to so-called combat healthcare restrictions. Isn't it amazing how they will always weaponize language and try to change the meaning of words? So now murdering an infant in utero, womb assassination, they sanitize and want to call it abortion. And then the act of doing that, or should I say the genre, they now want to label that as reproductive rights, but there's no reproduction going on. It's the opposite. They want to label it as healthcare, but no one's being cared for because women are actually being harmed oftentimes in this womb assassination, particularly by chemical abortion, followed by surgical abortion. No one ever talks about the damage and the permanent harm done to women due to the rise of these chemical abortions that are not regulated. They're not regulated at all. These women take these pills and then they go home and they suffer in silence. They're not given any sort of follow-up. It's just like, well, just go home. And they have so dehumanized the infants in utero that you're like, well, you'll pass the specimen in the toilet. This is how they weaponize language. And this is why I don't like using their words. And I say things like womb assassination, where moms hire medical hitmen to assassinate their babies in the womb. You got to make it real so you understand with clarity, this is what you're doing. I'm not going to call it reproductive justice. There's no justice being done. It's injustice. And I'm not going to call it reproductive health care either, because there's no reproducing going on. It's death. It's murder. We've adopted a culture of death so much so that we actually dehumanize and minimize what's actually being done by sanitizing it with all this other kind of language. But let me finish. It says, which brings us back to the issue at hand. How is the Biden administration intending to keep foster care children away from Christian influence? That's the question. I'll read it again. How is the Biden administration intending to keep foster care children away from Christian influence? What should be most obvious is the fact that children in foster care are in most need of Christian influence than anyone. One does not have to be a certified psychologist to grasp the trauma that is inflicted on both young and older children when they are separated from their biological family. Kids and youth in foster care are among the most vulnerable in society, and therefore are those who need most to be reassured of and shown God's pure love. Pure and undefiled religion is caring for the orphaned and the widow. How does the Christian and fulfill that biblical admonition when now we're being told, well, the foster care, I mean, you can help them, but you just don't share no Jesus with them. And not just that, if they want to transition, you can't preach the truth and the light of the gospel to them. You have to affirm the fact that they say they want to be something else that God has not called them to be. Do you understand the implications of what this is? That answers the question. How do you keep foster care children away from Christian influence? You enact wicked policies like this. And you tell them, oh, well, if you're not going to be on board with the transitioning of children, then you can't foster these children. You can't bring them into your home. They would rather these children find refuge with someone who's probably prone to pedophilia or prone to harm them than to be in a godly, loving Christian home. Let me ask you this. Overwhelmingly, by statistic, what demographic is more apt to take in foster children? Christians are. We adopt the most, we foster the most. It's part of who we are as the body of Christ. We take care of the orphans and the widows. We're the ones at the abortion clinic pleading for the lives of the unborn, saying, we will adopt your baby. Just don't kill your baby. We will adopt it. Whatever you need, we got you. When it comes to opening up our home, charitably to the foster child and the orphan. Who is doing that? It's the people of God that are doing that. But now when you got a policy like this, it's like, oh, I get it now. You don't want us raising these arrows and raising them up in the fear and admonition of the Lord and shooting them out into the culture. We have to indoctrinate them with this godless culture. We have to indoctrinate them with the sexual perversion. You don't think Kamala's on board with that? This is the prosecutor who performed the very first same-sex marriage. I don't really want to call it a marriage. I'll call it a same-sex union. She was the first one to do that in the state of California. So she's on board with this. Absolutely, she's on board with the LGBT agenda. And what follows that? You can't have LGBT agenda without this agenda, the trans agenda. The T is in the name. She's wholly on board with that. But Black women want to call me the sellout because I won't rock chucks and pearls in support of the side chick. Did I hear that right? I won't elevate my ethnicity and just stand with this Black woman despite the fact that she's wholly unqualified, unable. We don't share the same values. I'm sorry. We just don't. We are not the same. Okay? Outside of the fact that she might be 2-3 shades lighter than me, that's as close to being the same as we're ever going to get. We are so not the same. But you want me to abandon the worldview of the scriptures, abandon and silence the testimony of my Christian witness to support Kamala Harris because she's Black? You have lost your mind. You've got to be crazy. You got to be crazy. Why? Because these are the policies that they want to usher in, and they are harmful, not just to my children, but to future generations to come. Why? You can't reproduce if you got a country full of transgendered, confused people. These children are mutilated young, and reproducing for them is few and far in between. So where does that leave humanity? Where does that leave our future generations? They don't exist. She has no children. Did y'all forget that? Her husband, those are her stepchildren. She ain't got no kids. So she has no emotional attachment whatsoever to the idea of being somebody's mama. She chose her career over that path. That went in the cards for her. No. So, the article, Pastor Amanchukwu says, this is a good opportunity to also have it noted that the number one driver of children entering the foster care system is not abuse. It's poverty-related neglect, according to Joe Knitting. This must be emphasized. Most kids placed in foster care are taken away because their parents are poor. This should alarm and upset everyone, especially when taking into account that the cycle of poverty starts and ends, wait for it, drum roll please, Democrat policies, i.e. Lyndon B. Johnson's so-called Great Society. Let me read that to you again, because I don't think y'all are making the connection. And sometimes you need your old auntie to come and just make it plain like this, because a lot of y'all, our predecessors have done us a disservice by forcing us to look at the civil rights operation, not the movement, I call it an operation, as if without that, Black people would have had no hope in this country. But what they don't realize is that they're just pulling the wool over your eyes. Many of the things that happened during the 60s and the civil rights operation were some of the worst things that could have happened to us. Some of the worst. But let me read that again. Most kids placed in foster care are taken away because their parents are poor. This should alarm and upset everyone, especially when taking into account that the cycle of poverty starts and ends with Democrat policies, Lyndon B. Johnson's so-called Great Society. So not only has the Democrat Party caused the problem that has resulted in nearly 500,000 children being trapped in foster care, but the Democrats in charge of the federal government are now fighting to ensure that these vulnerable children are bombarded with pro-transgenderism propaganda and no Christian can protect them. Now you got to put your light up under a bushel. And I can't tell you how many so-called Christians who identify with the Democrat Party, they'll be on board with this and say, well, we can't force our beliefs, on these children. Little bit by little, they just strip it away. They did the same thing with abortion. You got so-called Black Christian Democrats who say, well, I personally think abortion is wrong, but we can't tell people what to do. So they go along with it. And then they do the same thing with the LGBT, the whole gay agenda. Well, I personally, I don't agree with sodomy, but we can't tell, free will. We can't tell people how to live their life. So, if the next pastoral candidate wants to be a homosexual man, then, I don't see what's wrong with it. That's what he do in his private time. I just want him to, bring me a word on Sunday. How many people have you heard come up with these dumb, ignorant, unbiblical arguments? A lot. They can't even think in proper categories anymore, because they've abandoned the authority and the sufficiency of this. And they've picked up the indoctrination and the parroted messages that they're hearing from their melanated, Marxist-minded Black pastors who get up in their pulpits every week and try to sell them that this is good and holy and righteous, and that you can separate your Christian worldview from the political policies that you support. They've convinced you that you can do that, and you can't. Keeping Christians from serving as caretakers or adopting foster children is only one part of the equation. The other is how Christians are being kept out of social services. The degree to which secularists dominate social services and are hostile to Christians was on display in a recent case before a UK tribunal that resulted in the judges refusing to reinstate a devout Christian social worker who was denied a position over his biblical views on homosexuality. One of the judges reportedly said that there was legitimate concerns over the potential impact of the Christian plaintiff's publicly known views on the mental health of patients who identify as LGBT. It's a Trojan horse. And so many of you are so steeped in your Blackness. How you unhitch from this now? How are you going to wiggle your way out of this now? Do you now see and understand why, for the past few months, I have been saying you have to choose Christ over color, character over constructs, and country over these retarded categories? You have to, because if you don't, you are going to find yourself siding with wickedness, siding with the kingdom of darkness. And then God is going to be out here looking at you like, what you out here doing? Now you're a party to the wickedness. How do you explain this? Let's get to some of these super chats. Hey, child, how are you? Good to see you this evening. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Those are Jesus's words from John 15:19. I love this segment of John all the way through John 17:17, because what Jesus is asserting here, he's kind of letting us know, if you were of the world would love you. So in situations like this, yes, the Christian persecution that we are experiencing is because Jesus has called the believer out of the world, right? We're set apart for holy use, chosen. We're other, right? Royal priesthood, holy nation, all of that. And here when he says, because you don't belong to the world, this is why the world doesn't love you as its own. But my question to some of you is, when you have the world's, why do you have the world's approval? Like, if you have the world's approval, something is wrong. That would mean that they are identifying you as one of them. So if you can go to, let me see, I don't know, your local, Biden Harris rally, not that they actually have those and people show up, but let's just say that they did. And they're giving credence to all of this stuff, and you're siding with that. It's the policies for me. Joe is a sweet old man. Now, he wicked, but just on face value, he looked like he that dude that you could just sit on the porch with in a rocking chair, and he gonna tell a little funny, probably inappropriate joke, but you gonna laugh. I get that. I can connect with him on such a level. But the job of the president comes with a set of responsibilities, and you have to have some capabilities, and he's never had those capabilities. But y'all voted for him anyway. Because in your spiritual blindness and the hatred in your heart, you couldn't see that the other candidate, you don't have to like the other candidate, but the other candidate had demonstrated an ability to lead and lead well. But see, you may not know that if your TV is tuned to CNN and MSNBC all day, you were literally programmed to hate. And I don't know when we're going to do it, but we need to deal with the hatred in the heart. We need to deal with the hatred in the heart. Because some of y'all are so steeped in the hatred in the heart, you can't even hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Because as soon as I mention Donald Trump's name, you go ballistic and you start tweaking. And then here come the stupid emails, your illogical emails that don't make no sense. And I'm like, I know you didn't read your own email because you've contradicted yourself this whole email. You ain't thinking through your positions. And I love you enough to say this. I do. But when you're going to deal with that hatred in your heart, all that bitterness, for 4 years, you've been just storing up all of this wrath and hatred, losing sleep over this. And here it is. I'm like, let's just make the proper category distinctions. I don't like the wickedness that Joe Biden is pushing. But the last thing I wanted was for him to be humiliated like he's been humiliated in front of the world because they keep parading him like Weekend at Bernie's, knowing he's not capable of doing for himself, thinking for himself, completing sentences. Now, not only is he the laughingstock of the world, we're the laughingstock of the world because the world's trying to figure out why would the American people do this? Like, why would they? That's supposed to... Listen, you know how when you're in a family and you got that one cousin that they always in trouble, they always showing out and doing something. And within the family, like you can talk about your family, but you're not going to let nobody else talk about your family. That's how I felt about Joe. I was like, all right, now we listen. Yes, we know you got issues, but at least to the world, we don't want the world clowning us too. Now the world is clowning us because they're like, you hate your country so much that you'd elect a corpse, right? And then you wouldn't even allow the corpse to be primaried, and then you'll let him run again. And y'all was just gonna put him as the nominee, as if he literally had 4 more years inside of him. Like, we deserve what we get. Just we do. But the hatred in our heart is what drove us to this point. And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. Like between now and November, it's going to be wild. Joy Reid has already lost her mind saying all kinds of godless, wicked things. Like that girl need to repent. Like at this point, she's like the embodiment of wickedness. I don't even think I can sit in the same room with her because she's so wicked and evil with some of the stuff that she says. But we still have to deal with the Kamala issue. We got to deal with the Kamala issue. I just wanted to read an excerpt of that article because I thought that it would at least give you some sense of these are the things that go on behind the scenes that the Biden administration doesn't want you to know about. So they just want to keep you occupied with Trump is bad. And this is what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Should I finish this article? Let me finish it up. He says, the reality is that the secular left's actions to use foster care children for social engineering have been in the works for some time. Or how about here in the US, where many children are adopted and placed into homosexual practicing homes to help legitimize their lifestyle? How wicked is that? The campaign rhetoric supporting gay adoptions has often made claims insinuating that more gay couples are willing to care for children in foster care than Christians. Now, that's a lie, but, whatever. GLAAD made this case and stated that child welfare experts say pro-family policies mean more foster children should spend time in group homes as agencies turn away qualified foster parents. But the data shows that this is not true. In fact, previous Barna Group research shows that Christians are twice more likely to adopt than the general public, and evangelicals are 5 times more likely to adopt, especially older children and or special needs kids. Thankfully, some action is in the works. The Tennessee Attorney General has voiced plans to take legal action and sue HHS to stop the rule from implementation, and has also sent a letter, along with other Republican state attorney generals, that appropriately called this rule unconstitutional and a violation of state domestic law rights. In Congress, both the Senate and House have also introduced bills to block this rule from being implemented, though we know that the Senate will never hold a hearing while Democrats hold the majority. While this rule is supposedly not expected to go into effect until 2026, we can anticipate that HHS will get the ball rolling sooner than later. We also get something creative. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene offered a measure to defund Rachel Levine's salary. In her tweet, she wrote, quote, "My amendment uses the Holman Rule, an amendment to appropriations legislation that can reduce the salary of or fire specific federal employees to reduce the salary of Assistant Secretary for Health Richard Levine to $1, the same way he supports castrating children who suffer from gender dysphoria." Greene said in her speech, "It is our job to protect our children from sexual groomers like Levine, and reducing his salary to $1 is a strong first step." Unfortunately, due to 46 House Republicans who joined the Democrats, it failed. Further proof that much more work needs to be done to ensure that anyone who holds public office on our side will not back down in protecting our children. Did you guys miss that? 46 House Republicans joined the Democrats to block that from happening. So we need to be paying attention to the godless goons on the Republican side who, in name only, claim to support an American first, a children's first agenda, but then will vote like this to advance all of this sexual perversion that's being forced on our children. They need to be voted out. There's so much work that needs to be done here. But in light of Biden's announcement, I know I'm going a little long, y'all. I'm going long. In light of Biden's announcement, here's how I kind of want to summarize everything that has happened over the past couple of days. I don't believe that Dems believe in sending their best. I don't. If they really believed in sending their best, we wouldn't have had Kamala Harris. We wouldn't have been given Fani Willis. What they do is they send in ones that check the intersectionality box that they believe is going to win them the most brownie points. But they also send the ones that they believe they can control and use and then just like the side chick, discard when they're done with them. Think about all of the conversations that has been surrounding Kamala Harris possibly being the presidential nominee. They have literally talked about this woman like she don't exist. And she's really done very little interviews. Like, have y'all seen an interview where they've asked her, do you even want to be the nominee? Like, they talk about her like the side chick, right? It's just like, well, you know, this, and I'm not saying it's right, but this is what they do. This is what the Dems have always done. And I don't understand why Black women think that this is the party for them. I think most of it is because they're indoctrinated, but I'm just saying, I don't believe that they really believe in sending their best, right? They don't care that you're qualified. They're not even interested in your ability to do the job. All they care about is, do you check the box? They have overplayed their hand so much with identity politics that now they are in a pickle. And now they have crafted and created a quote unquote dream team that ends up being more like a nightmare team, because they have a senile, you know, mentally impaired president. And, you know, they had Kamala. I mean, a lot can be said for her just ability to just, she's never really sure what's going on. It's the word salad for me. It's all of the identity politics, and it's demonstrating that all of these existential realities, these dermal features, our sexual orientation, none of that gives you any indication of how you can perform in a role. But for some reason, they have adopted it as the most important thing ever. This is how you get a Jen Psaki. This is how you get a Karine Jean-Pierre. Those are the two worst, most horrible press secretaries. But lesbian, then a Black lesbian. It's just like, yay! Like, why? Can anyone answer for me? Why do the Democrats think that being able to check a box of the first holds any sort of weight or merit in and of itself? Like, who the heck cares? Can you do the job? Can you do the job well? This is what happens. This is where identity politics gets you. And this is why I don't even play that game. And then for the Christian, I'm choosing Christ over color every day and twice on Sunday. I just am. I'm not about to get into a conversation. Well, how can you talk about Black women this way? Listen, if she's not qualified and she's doing a poor job, why do you think that her ethnic expression is something that I need to tiptoe around? And that's one of the problems that the Dems are going to have, because if Kamala is the nominee, we already know the hand that they're going to play. It's going to be you sexist, you racist, and orange man bad. That's about all they got. Oh, and we want to kill babies. I forgot that part. We want to kill babies. And anything that JD Vance attempts to say, well, no, she's not the VP. So I don't know, anything Trump tries to say to attack her actual performance is going to be labeled as sexist, misogynistic, and racist. Why? Because those people believe that those are the most important things about her, which is so sad, so shallow, and so silly. But if Trump is smart, he's not going to play that game. If he's smart, he will just go out before the debate even starts, say, listen, I already know everything I say, you're going to label as misogynistic, racist, and sexist. So let's just put it all out there. This has nothing to do with that. She's incompetent. She ain't doing a good job, and everybody knows it. So can we all just be honest so we can move it along? And that might throw her off, because she can be like, well, she's going to still pull it, but then she's going to look silly. Because in adult conversations, right? That are not based on emotion, but are just dealing with observable reality. We're going to push all of that aside. And I know Black women can't do that because the moment a heterosexual white man says anything negative or in disagreement with a Black woman, that's their go-to label. You a sexist, racist, misogynist. That's their go-to. But I want to challenge Black women, come with a better argument, because that one's not going to work. It's not. Because you as a Black woman knows that she's incompetent and she hasn't done a good job. But because you have to protect, you got to gatekeep the community and you got to stay on code because of the Black girl magic. But you're hurting and harming yourself and your children. Because I just told you, she's all on board for the sexual perversion of your children, making sure it's in the school system, making sure that you get unfeathered access to assassinating your baby in the womb. Now, we need less babies, less humans on the earth. Yes, she wants that. She has no concept of what to do with this economy. She wouldn't even know where to start. She wouldn't know where to start. And furthermore, do you really want to put Kamala in office knowing that she's just a puppet and the same people that have been pulling Biden's strings are going to be pulling hers too? Or do you just get excited? I think, we have like a first Black president and she's so pretty. Like, is that where we are? You're going to get excited just because she's the first. Forget the fact that I was watching today. I don't even know where I saw it. And there was this Black woman on there whining and complaining, saying that Kamala is the best person for the job, but they've been holding her back. And she hasn't been able, to really demonstrate what she can do because they been holding her back. And the gentleman on the opposing side was like, well, who's the they? Who's holding her back? Because she's a Democrat. Who's keeping her from being great? Who's preventing her from putting her best foot forward and showing the world and her party what she can do? Who's doing that? Democrats? So if that's your argument, so your own people are holding you back? So is white supremacy a thing? I don't know. I don't think that's it at all. I don't think it has anything to do with her ethnicity. It has more to do with the fact that she could be controlled. And so they're going to prop her up as their puppet of choice. Biden was their puppet of choice, and now they're gonna put their fourth string quarterback in because her puppet strings. She's a marionette. She can be controlled, but this is gonna be a disaster for America, and it's sad that there are Democrats that are gonna vote blue no matter who, and that's fine. They're free to do that, but yeah, not me over here. I can't do that, but the last thing that I wanted to bring up was, why didn't President Biden address the nation? Why did he lead from a position of power and authority and just own up and man up and face the camera and present this announcement on camera? You want to know why? Because he can't. This is what got us here. He can't do it. He can't do it. And that's the sad part, that it's gotten so bad that now we're in the 9th hour and now he can't even, in an impromptu speech, face the nation he is supposed to be running to give us, the American people, the news that he's dropping out the race. So he sends a tweet. A tweet. And we just accepted the tweet. Oh, breaking news. And I'm sitting here like, wait a minute. You gonna drop out the race and we get a tweet? What are you, 18? I just want to let all my fans know that I'm dropped a tweet. Not, we are having an emergency press release. Y'all know back in the day when they would have the beep and all the TV, whatever you were watching, because the president had to come on and address the nation. Why we didn't get that? We got a tweet on X. We didn't get America, As you know, I've been struggling. You saw the debate. I had more than a bad night. I have been struggling and dealing with this privately for a while, and I thought I had it under control, but I don't. And so I want to be the one to tell you. Like, he old, I get it. Okay, you don't want to address the whole nation because, you know, at least address your party. I want Democrats to know that I'm not well. And I'm struggling to get up every day and just do the basics. But I'm here now because that's what leaders do. But instead, the Democrats are praising this as if it's a flex and are trying to paint Joe Biden as if he's this hero that's pushing aside what he personally wants for the sake of the nation, for the party. And I'm like, that's not what this is. That's not what this is. But okay, if that makes you feel better, whatever they got to do to kind of sanitize this and make it, you know, more palatable and acceptable, fine. I, as an American, would have liked to have the president of the United States address the nation. Because I think we keep forgetting, with all this partisan politics, he is still the daggone president. And he is supposed to represent all of us. Even the ones that don't like him, he represents us. I would have liked to hear this news from him. Even though he's not representing the party that I'm not going to vote for him. But at some point, Americans deserve honesty. Just be honest. Get on camera. Write it out and do your best to struggle through it. I'm struggling like they should have put this in the teleprompter. I'm struggling right now to read this teleprompter. I oftentimes go and repeat the pauses because something's going on with me and I haven't been honest with you. Do you know how many Americans would have rallied behind him, not voted for him, but just rallied behind him in support of our commander-in-chief because he was honest and told us that he was struggling and that he's going to take some time out and get along with his family and just in his private time, he would just appreciate your prayers and your support from afar because this is hard enough what I'm going through. Like, I would have been like, I would have gave him a slow clap. I would be like, I can't be mad at him. I can't be mad at him because for once, somebody ain't lying to us and they telling us the truth, but they can't do that. They can't do that. Up until this morning, I'm going to show y'all a clip. His campaign co-chair lied to us this morning. It was like, no, he's in the race to win and he's going to beat Donald Trump. And I was like, he lied. I told somebody on Wednesday, I was like, Biden is going to bow out this race by Sunday. Watch. And they lied Wednesday. They lied Thursday. They doubled down on Friday real hard. They lied Saturday and they lied this morning. Why you keep lying to the American people? Why you keep lying to us? Do we not deserve to know? I'm going to tell you, they don't believe that you deserve to know. Because first of all, the government, in many aspects, particularly under this Democrat leadership, they believe that they are God. They think they are God. They believe that you are too stupid to understand and you are too unintelligent to deserve to know what's going on because they tell you what's best for you. That's why we didn't get addressed. And it's the same reason why the Democrats are going to be told this who your nominee is. You don't get to choose. We're not going to have no primary. Y'all ain't going to get no choice. In the Democrat Party where democracy is everything, there's no democracy here. It's a dictatorship. We told you who the nominee was going to be, and it's going to be Joe. And now that Joe can't do it, now we're about to tell you it's going to be Kamala. And you're going to like it, and you're going to love it, and you're going to get up, black preacher, pulpit pimp, iron triangle representative. You're gonna get in your pulpit and you're gonna tell your church members you gonna support this ticket because that's what you're gonna do. Y'all, this is nothing but modern day slavery, except this time there are no physical chains. The chains are up here. The shackles are in your mind. And you know the only thing that can free you from the shackles of your mind? Repentance and faith in Christ alone. Because see, all this politics is nice. Like, I love politics, right? But if we're not grounded and tied to the scriptures to even understand that God is still sovereign over all of this, and that so many of our loved ones, we're saying that they are mentally enslaved, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper than mental slavery. It is literally spiritual blindness, and many of them are spiritually dead. That's why they can't see. So many of our friends and family who are going to ride this Democratic train till the wheels fall off, they are deceived and they are spiritually dead. And that's why they are unable to discern that the very things that they are supporting are in opposition to the faith they claim to proclaim. That's why they can't see it. So what's the remedy? Can we argue them from a policy position? I mean, you can. If you have the energy and you actually want to dedicate that kind of time, you can do that. But something so much more better is to take them straight to the scriptures. Take them to the scriptures. Give them the gospel. Tell them they need to be made alive in Christ Jesus. They need to repent of their sin, of supporting the things that the Lord hates. Encourage them to read their Bible and to start looking at the world through a biblical lens. And one of two things is going to happen. Either the eyes of their understanding are going to be open, and then they're going to see it and they're going to abandon this foolishness, or they're going to double down and their minds are going to be reprobate. And they're going to continue down this road, on this broad road that leads to death. That's what's going to happen. They're just going to stay on it. And all you can do is while it is day, right, is pray for their soul salvation, that they would abandon this foolishness. But the vast majority of people who are co-signing to this, it's because they don't know the God of the Bible. They know a false God that's been presented to them. It's an idol that they've made in their own image, that they believe that their idol is acceptable with these policies. Or should I say, not acceptable with the policies, but congruent or aligns with these policies. But let me get to some more super chats. Hi, Josh. Good to see you. Josh says, I live in LA and left Gavin Newsom ruined LA. Absolutely. He ruined the whole state. It's not just LA. I mean, the whole state of California is it's down bad. It's down bad. And I had friends who live on the West Coast who can't leave at this point, unfortunately, because they don't have the money, the resources to be able to do that. But yeah, what he's done to that state, I don't see how they're able to sustain it. But thank you so much for that super chat, Josh. I appreciate it. Sister Sonia, she said, thanks, April. Get your popcorn and cherry ices. It's going to be a real show-stopping convention. Listen, now you got me wanting popcorn and a cherry icy like at the movie theater. Darn, Sonia, why you do me like this, sis? We do have popcorn, but, oh, no, we got popsicles. So I could squeeze out enough popsicles in a cup and then smash it like this with a spoon. I don't know. Yes, the DNC convention is going to be interesting. I'm going to watch it. I watched a huge portion of the RNC. I had highs and lows, parts about it that I loved and parts about it that I was like, oh, it's kind of cringe. But overall, it was a great convention that made me proud to be an American. It really did. It really did. So thank you so much, Sister Sonia. I am so grateful for your support. Every time you show up in here and I see your face, it warms my heart, makes me feel loved, and I know how you have my back. So I appreciate that. It means a lot. Go wanderlust with me. I don't know what that's about, but thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate your support as well. He doesn't say anything, just his name. But Chow has another one. Chow says, come on, listen. This is the crux of the gospel. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Galatians 3:28. God does not show favoritism. Romans 2:11. Thank you so much, Chow, for posting that. Honestly, what what made me think about that today was I was in church, and it's just something so special about today as I looked around the room and, we were all worshiping together. I really truly had a stronger grasp and understanding of the mystery of the gospel, because as I looked around at all of my brothers and sisters in the Lord that I fellowship with these people every week. But it was the idea of Galatians 3:28. Like, we've got people of different ethnicities, men and women. Like, the fact that our unity is on the basis of what God has done for us in Christ Jesus. And that's what binds us together. It was just so beautiful to experience and to see. And so every time I go to church, I look at it with a different lens. It's not just this routine and this habit that I'm just kind of going and I'm going through the motions. I'm like, this is a display of Christ's kingdom here on earth. And that when we're glorified and we're with our Savior and we're all together, it's going to be a beautiful display of all of us together from all these different backgrounds, all these different people united in Christ, not on the basis of who has more melanin than the other, and well, I'm a woman and I'm pro this. It's gonna be none of that. None of that. We're one in Christ. This spiritual house is just built up together. I love it. It's just beautiful. Hey, Arizona T. Good Sunday night journalist. Excellent topic. You're speaking factual evidence. Great job. Thank you, Arizona T. I appreciate that. Like I said, this was an impromptu live. I'm going to get out of here in a little bit because I think my mama's home. She spent the weekend with my brother. So I got to check on her and see how she's doing. But I definitely wanted to go live just to put my 2 cents on this situation. I think it's an exciting time to be following politics because every day is you don't know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, literally. Now you kind of expect what's going to happen, but it allows you to see, okay, how long they going to drag the lie out? How long they going to drag it out? Then you're like, there it goes. They give us the gotcha like we didn't see it coming, but we all knew it was coming. It's just amazing how, they do it. I thought that they were going to announce this the night of Trump's speech at the RNC. I was like, they might try to overshadow his speech and announce it then. And I was like, well, maybe not. I knew it was coming, though. I knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time over the course of a couple of days. And I thought it was interesting how the liberal media kept priming us for, any day now, it might happen. And then Biden's people were like, oh, no, he's strong. He's doing just fine. He's committed. He's going to win. Go Biden. Like, you just were like, they must pay you a lot of money to lie. Just every day, have you no shame? Like, I wonder if a lot of these people have become professional alcoholics. So I know after they do these press conferences, they like, I need a strong drink. Like, over time, all of that lying has to get to you. Like, I don't understand how Karine Jean-Pierre is still able to go from day to day. And at this point, her conscience is probably seared and she's so used to it. But you can say she struggles through those press conferences. Like, you see, he's just doing fine. Like I told you, Peter, Peter. And then, we're just going to continue because the Biden, he's doing well. And his doctors, the same doctor has been seeing him like all this time. And, the American people, we're committed to, being in this race. And it's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be just fine. Every day, that's what we get. Every day, that's what we get. Anyway. Hi, Maureen. Maureen doesn't say anything in particular. She just sends a super chat in support. Thank you so much for stopping by this evening. Love your avatar of with this Despicable Me. That is super cute. I've watched, I think, all of the Despicable movies. I always wondered, what are those little things, though? I don't know. What are they called? I don't know. My kids are older now, but I used to know what they were called, but I can't remember. But thank you for your support and for stopping by tonight. I thought about dropping the link for tonight, but it's already 8:35, and I've been on here since 6:45. I think it's been like an hour and 50 minutes. Wow, that's like pretty long. So let me see. Oh, thank you, Eric. The Minions. That's right. I couldn't remember. Yeah, I'm getting old. And I see Katie was saying that she thinks that Biden dropping out might be bad for Trump. I don't know. I mean, I was hoping he was going to stay in because that would have been good. But him dropping out, I don't know, possibly. I think the Trump campaign should spend just a lot of time getting their message out, making sure that the American people know specifically what their agenda is. Stop allowing the Democrats to hijack and say, that their agenda is this Project 2025 agenda. No, tell the people what's your agenda. What are the policies you're running on? Because the Biden's, I was going to say the Biden-Harris ticket, but the Harris ? Ticket, whatever. We don't even know what's going on. They don't really have a platform outside of murder babies and sexualize your kids. Oh, and raise your taxes. That's all they really got. And then they just haven't done a good job of communicating that. So I don't know. Somebody said she sold her Haitian soul. Right. Oh, yes. Let me link you guys to this article. It's an op-ed piece written by Pastor John Amanchukwu, who I don't know if you guys have been. Why does this not want to pay? There we go. Let me link it to you right now. I'm going to send it here. And then what I'm going to do is I will leave it in the description box as well. I'll do that. I'll drop it in the description box so that you'll have that. And yeah. So what are you guys thinking? Did you guys see this coming? Right? Did you have a feeling that Biden was going to drop out? What are your thoughts about that? Like I said, for at least a year, well over a year, everybody knows I don't like Biden's policies. But I have not liked how they have treated him, or should I say, how his wife has just allowed him to, be embarrassed like this instead of pulling him out the public eye. But it was like the thirst for power excuse me. Y'all, I saw my husband bring in some cheesecake and just started choking. I don't like how, I could just never do that to my husband. I would be like, listen, the country, yes, it's important, but your health and what you mean to this family means more. We have to figure something out because they knew back in 2020 that Biden didn't have 4 years left, but they didn't care. They knew he didn't have 4 years left in him, but they didn't care. And they didn't think to tap a VP that was capable of stepping in if in the event something happened. They chose to virtue signal and just pick the Black woman, the Indian. They just made very bad choices that now that they're stuck and they're in a pickle, no matter which way they go, they won't be able to keep their party happy. And so I don't know. Listen, I don't know. Katie says if they bring in Michelle, it's over. I think because we've already had 8 years of Biden. Because we had 8 years of Biden, a lot of people remember that. And while she may get Black women on board because they're just going to be focused on personality and not on policy, there are a lot of people who I can't go back to those Obama years. And plus she's not a politician. So she really wouldn't be able to be poised. And I mean, that's no shade. I love her, but that's like us bringing Melania and putting her on the ticket. We're just gonna be like, gee, you don't really, it's really not your thing. Like, and Michelle hates politics. She don't even like politics like that. If they were to bring her in, it would just be a vanity pick, and she would be puppeted and controlled again by Barack. And everybody already knows that. And since we've already lived under Barack Obama, we don't want to live under that again. And I think the American people are smart enough to be like, you got us once, and then you got us twice, but you ain't about to get us a third time. Right? I don't think they would do that. But yeah, it does show how dismantled and fractured the Democrat Party is. They are going to come with the recycled crap like they do every 4 years, and we will hear a lot. We're going to hear a lot of racism. We're going to hear a lot of sexism, misogyny, and don't think that election integrity is not going to be an issue this time around. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice but to pull some sort of kind of election integrity shenanigans, because they don't have the capacity to win on the basis of the policy positions. So they are going to mobilize their people in key states, and counting's gonna stop, in blue cities, and then suitcases are gonna come out. All kinds of crazy stuff is gonna happen. And it might be so obvious this time that they might just, I don't know, they might do it knowing that it's gonna be a bad look and it's gonna be too obvious, but they might do it anyway. They might just do it anyway. You just never know. You never know. But anyway, let me see. I think I missed a super chat. I missed several. Hi, Betty Green. Good to see you this evening. Thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate your support tonight as well. And then Michelle, hey girl. She says, it is so despicable. We've had 12 years of Obama-Biden admin. I believe we have. I mean, former President Barack Obama has gone on record saying that if there was a way he could do a third term where he could just have a puppet out front and he just pulled the strings, like he actually got his wish. I really do believe that the country has been run vicariously by Barack Obama this entire time. I do. It's the only thing that makes sense, because Joe cannot function on a day-to-day basis independently, making decisions, parsing through things, being decisive. He cannot do that. And I know this based on my experience with an aging parent who's in cognitive decline. The impulse control, the ability to find their words and then use them to convey themselves in a meaningful way. Things that used to be very, very easy for them. Decisions such as them making a simple meal. They don't have the confidence that they used to have to make the simple meal. And so they're doing things that they would not normally do. Right? Like, take, for example, one time my mom really wanted some fried chicken, and she was really dead set on me ordering KFC. I hate KFC. It's bad for health. I'm like, no, we're not doing KFC. We have chicken here. Well, she didn't want to cook the KFC because instead of her just telling me, I don't remember really how to fry the chicken, and I just kept saying, we have chicken here. We can fry it. She finally broke down. This was before I really realized what was happening. Fried the chicken, but she didn't use any flour. Anybody who knows how to fry chicken, you can't fry chicken without flour. And it's not that we didn't have flour. We had flour, but she didn't use the flour. And when I said, I was like, Mama, how you frying this chicken without flour? She played it off and was like, I don't want the flour. And I was like, but then it's not fried chicken. It's just chicken and grease. And in my mind, I'm trying to make sense of it. And she had convinced herself that this made sense and this is how she was going to fry the chicken. It's little things like that. Do not tell me that this man is running the country with the full functionality of his brain. He's not. So somebody's been running the country. I think it's a combination, but mainly it's probably Barack and Nancy and Jill. Probably a little crackhead, Hunter. I mean, we don't know. And that's the part that should bother Democrats, is the fact that they don't know. Now, some of them don't care. This is why I'm like, how do you give this a party like that doesn't even care about your well-being enough to tell you what's going on a basic level, not all the intricacies behind the scenes, but they would allow this to happen and just expect you to accept it. And you're okay with that? Ain't no way. I'm sorry. Ain't no way. Anyway, y'all, let me go. I gotta eat dinner. I love you guys so much. I appreciate your support tonight and listening to my rant. I will probably chop this up into 2, maybe 3 excerpts. I don't know. It just depends on how it lands. But I think I'm gonna go live tomorrow night. I'm gonna try, because what I want to do, if you guys haven't noticed, I have been on a particular, when I cover theological topics, I've been on a particular wavelength. What I'm trying to do is be very specific in the content that I create, because my goal is I really do want to help people to break free from churchianity. And so last week I covered Cindy Trim's sermon or talk, or I don't even know what to call that, when she was at the Innovate conference in New Birth. And I broke down with laser sharp precision the pulpit hustle that was happening there, and how those people, the flock, was being fleeced for selfish gain, using the power of suggestion and a lot of mental manipulation in order to, elicit money out their pockets into her hands. What we're going to do now is we're going to do the conclusion of that talk. And it's worse than the first 30 minutes of it that I covered. So I think what we'll do is we'll finish up that, and I will build a biblical case for why it was unbiblical, unchristian, more in line with New Thought and New Age mysticism and less Christian influence. So I think that's what we're going to cover tomorrow, Lord willing, but I'm not sure yet. It just depends. But I'm definitely going to cover that. And then I also, I had a couple of other topics. I've had a subscriber reach out to me and ask me to do a video on the doctrine of once saved, always saved. However, I don't really like that terminology because it's very misleading. I like perseverance of the saints or eternal security. So I'm going to be teaming up with Brother Rick Caldwell from Caldwell Apologetics. I think we're going to do it on Friday. And I'm going to bring him in so that we can No, that's not why I said I was going to bring Rick in. I may have to bring Rick in for that. But I owe a subscriber a video on covering once saved, always saved. And so I don't know if I'll get to that on Wednesday or Friday. Probably Friday, but I'm not sure yet. But I did not forget about you. But I'm going to give you a hint. And then I'll go through the scriptures to demonstrate what I believe the scriptures teach on this. It's kind of like at conception, right? Like once the way that life is created in the womb, you have the sperm and the egg, and they meet. And once that happens, there's no separating that. It's the same thing when the supernatural work of the Spirit through the power of regeneration happens, and a person is raised to newness of life, and they're born from above, and they're indwelt with the Spirit. Once you've been given a new heart and you've been indwelt by the Holy Spirit, once you have union with Christ, you can't undo that. And I understand that there are some scriptures that would lead one to believe that you can lose your salvation. But what I would encourage listeners to understand is that we need to take all of Scripture and interpret Scripture with Scripture and take it in totality and understand the context of what's being said and the implications of that. Because if you're justified by faith, and if God the Father gives sheep to Jesus and no one can snatch them out of his hand, like all that the Father gives me will come to me, no one's going to snatch them out. The next question you need to ask yourself is, well, what's happening with those people who once professed Christ and now they're living for the devil? They're not abiding in the vine. They're not living like a Christian. What do we make of that? The question you need to ask yourself is, were they ever born from above and really regenerated? Right? Or were they like in the parable of the soils in Mark 4, I think it's Mark 4 or Mark 3, you have to start asking yourself deeper questions to be able to parse out all of the Bible verses that seem to lead one to believe that one can lose their salvation. So that's a little hint, and we can go through the scriptures to examine that, but you can't undo it. Like, nobody's snatching you out. It's not possible. It's not possible. If you've been justified, you're going to be glorified. Like, it's going to happen. So it's like a golden chain of redemption, the way it works. But anyway, let me let y'all go. I'm exhausted. I'm starving. I want some of the cheesecake. And until next time, you guys, grace and peace.